paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hostler, joined by all of my co-hosts today. DJ. What's up, DJ?
I'm Jason All. I am wearing my EDH shirt. There's the beer sound that you all love. I'm gonna complain about something from the 80s that is emotionally attached to my soul, but no one else's in particular.
Yeah, dude, tell me what it was like back when cars didn't have automatic gears.
Well, I was playing Legacy this weekend, and now I'm Cass, and now I'm shuffling these things and doing something with my hand. I mean, I do that too, but and now I'm gonna just talk about how I'm gonna run at Jason like a lowland gorilla and knock him off his center of gravity so that he can fall onto his kid and crush their spine, which he's fine with because he's Jason. And now I'm back to being Cass, and I'm gonna talk about how all the bands this week were pretty good, but they could have done better. And help me out a little bit here, man. Like, I can't play 3 people. You have to do me if I'm gonna do Jason and Cass.
I think I am doing you very well right now. I'm sitting here
Just
silently judging your impressions. I gotta say, not bad on Jason though.
Is that who I am? I don't think I have a good Cass. I think I have a better Jason than I have a Cass.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, Cass is probably you're like objectively correct in what she is probably pretty happy with the bands, right? I think she was a big Lord of the Rings hater and wanted the Swamp Cycler to go.
Does that mean you're a Lord of the Rings hater, or does that just mean that you want the deck to be more balanced?
There you go. That's the I don't know. Have you seen all the discourse? I mean, this is actually a Jason thing. There's a bunch of discourse going around about Starship Troopers right now, about how people on the right are embracing the movie, and they don't seem to understand.
Oh yeah, they're raging against the machine.
Well, like they don't understand that the movie is in fact a satire of
that's what I'm saying. They're raging against the machine.
But like they kind of. The thing is, they watch the movie, and what is going around now, the current discourse, is them defending the fascist government in the movie as the good guys.
No, I know it's
No. But like the right wing is not. It's not that they don't get it. They don't. It's not like they don't get that it's a parody. It's that they unironically understand the director's intent and say, you're wrong. Actually, the Empire the fascists are the good guys. We understand it's about fascism, and we agree, and we like that part. That's us. The fascists, they tell you what it's like to join the military. They show you the people without their legs. They're honest with you. Isn't that great? Everyone's equal.
Why are people losing their legs?
Well, there's a big scene where, like one of the guys, like it's in the director's vision, it's very on the nose. The guy goes, "Mobile infantry made me the man I am today," and he rolls back in his chair and he has no legs and one arm, right? And it's like, yes, we get it. The mobile infantry that our protagonist is joining maimed you, right? So allegedly in the book, the government does that to discourage people from joining because they only want dedicated people or whatever, right? In the movie,
it's like how the U.S. Army is not recruiting valedictorians.
Well, right, I guess, right. And then in the movie, it's played as sort of an ironic, dark humor sort of bit, right? But it's just the current discourse is, yes, it's not that people don't understand that it's a satire. It's that we've reached the point of America where they unironically just believe the fascists are the good guys. And it's just fascinating.
That's just good old American efficiency, baby. We're skipping steps. We don't need to pretend like it's a satire and then actually. No, we're Henry Fording it, which is completely unrelated to any sort of ideology. But we're Henry Fording it on the assembly line, which is a purely American thing. That's the only thing Henry Ford believed in was just the assembly line and efficiency of understanding media. So we are consuming it through Grok AI, because I'm not gonna watch the movie. I'm not gonna watch Starship Troopers. I'm gonna watch Grok AI's summary of it.
Yep. Because that way
And
you know
then-
it won't be woke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Welcome to the Brainstorm Brewery, everybody. That was our Jason. That was my impression of Jason, like talking about a movie from 30 years ago really deeply that I got to say, it is kind of fascinating how it's in the discourse today. But here we are. We're going to talk about Magic. It is DJ and I, Cass and Jason, get a much needed week off. And here we are to bring you a show where we talk about bans. Everyone's favorite topic, the ban list update. DJ, did you have any, like, I woke up around noon today and I was like, oh, there was a ban list update. I guess I'll go check it out. So I was in the middle of a meeting and I casually strolled over to dailyMTG.com and saw the Underworld Breach was banned in Modern and that Troll of Khazad-dûm was banned in Legacy.
So I was having kind of a slow morning today. Just I had a really nice weekend and I was just kind of easing into the morning. Didn't want to be very stressed at all. And I was mentally preparing myself for all of the extra work I would have to do if cards were unbanned. And I breathed a nice little sigh of relief. I was like, oh, I don't have to do any. I don't have to I don't have to sell a bunch of things or change a bunch of prices on stuff. I can just relax, and those Underworld breaches that are in my inventory you can line my casket with them. That's fine. I'll die with them. Cards should just be unprinted and yeeted into the sun or whatever they have on Theros if they don't have a sun. And
I think they have a second. No, it's Almond Cat. They got the second sun.
You're doing great, bud.
Yeah, Approach of the Second Sun. It's a magic card.
I know what the magic card is. You're doing great.
It's a deck building game, deck master game.
Deck building, deck master game. And I like a lot of things happen in Pauper, which I don't particularly have strong feelings about. And I
mean, go ahead.
I am not the modern or legacy expert that Cass is, so I won't be able to tell you whether Deathrite Shaman should have gotten unbanned or whether Birthing Pod should be unbanned. Or I do think that Leovold is fine in Commander, but I know the Commander ban list is separate from the 60 card ban list, and that's, I believe, the last we heard about the Commander ban list is at the end of April.
Well, Leovold is, I suspect they would not do that just because of the wheel problem inherent with it.
I think if you're resolving Leovold and then resolving another sorcerer, there's so many other cards in the game that end the game with a wheel. You're allowed to play Notion Thief. We live in the year of our Lord 2025.
The year of our Lord Skitter.
Leovold is kind of embarrassing on the Commander ban list, I think.
That's an interesting take. I do understand fundamentally why they don't want that effect. It's the same reason Whole Breacher's on the ban list, right? So, I get it.
But Narset's, it's not, though, because Narset's not. You're allowed to play a 3-mana Narset and just,
I understand.
ruin their day. And Narset is a uncommon 3-mana Planeswalker that is mono blue that goes into more decks and also, draws you cards.
Then Leovold, you mean? Right? Is that what you're comparing to?
Yeah, not the 3-mana War of the Spark Narset is a legal commander. You're allowed to play that and then the Wheel of Fortune in this game. That's
I get it. I mean, something Planeswalkers are harder to recur than creatures, blah blah blah. But I'm not gonna lie, I understand. I get it. I think if Leovold were printed today, it probably wouldn't end up on the ban list. It's probably a good way to look at it.
Right.
Well, let's start with the top, I guess. I missed, by the way, Sowing Micah's spawn bond and banned in Legacy. Let's start with Modern, where Underworld Breach was banned after dominating the last few months of Modern play. Honestly, I gotta say, it's a cool story, the Underworld Breach story. I understand people don't like the deck, and I totally get that, but it started as basically Jesse Ropekin's pet deck several years ago when the card was printed, and obviously it was good in other formats, but never really got going in Modern. And it was this weird combo deck that somehow just needed fewer and fewer combo pieces as the months went on to actually be the part of the deck that won. And over the years, it just kind of got refined, sort of in the way Amulet Titan did, where it went from this fringe combo-ish player that could sometimes play a fair-ish game of Magic to, okay, well, hey, this deck's actually pretty good. To wait a minute, this deck's actually really broken once you break
This-
it down.
This
and
feels
understand.
very revisionist, Corbin.
Of which? Of Underworld Breach or
Yes,
of
of the card that should never have existed.
But it
in,
didn't
like,
get broken
any-
in modern. It didn't get. It's been years, right? It's not like 6 months ago, or maybe not 6, but like say before Modern Horizons 3, or like it wasn't like this was the best deck, right? It was
It
just a
doesn't have
blend deck.
to be the best deck to generate miserable play patterns in
I
every
agree
game
with
it's
that.
in.
Look,
So,
look,
like-
like I said, if we can separate the story of the deck from the experience of playing against the card,
That's why it's revisionist history. That's what they say
maybe,
is
maybe.
like all the revisionists are like, well, if we separate this part of the history that everyone let's just focus on the assembly line. We don't need to focus on the rest of Henry Ford's ideology. We can just focus on this certain cool car he made, guys.
Okay, how do you feel about Lantern Control winning a Pro Tour then?
Lantern Control is, I think, better for the game because it fundamentally operates on a different axis of like Magic the Gathering,
As opposed to just being
as opposed to just being
combo.
another combo deck that
Yeah,
like
that's
fills your
fair.
graveyard and does the thing and Yogg wills you. Like Lantern Control is
So you're separating the design of the deck from the play experience of playing, the play patterns of the deck is what I'm hearing.
no, because
If the
the play
play pattern
patterns of the
of
deck are the same as the play patterns of the deck match up with the design of the deck,
The
and that they are
experience of
not
playing
Magic the
it-
Gathering.
The experience of playing against Lantern was miserable in the same way that
It wasn't. The reason Lantern
Someone
games are
cried.
miserable is because
yes, I know, but
if you're
someone
bad at
cried
the game,
for
you don't
that played it.
concede. So
Someone,
that's a skill issue.
I understand that, man, but the end of the day, someone came to F&M trying to have fun, and she ended up crying because she got locked out by Lantern Control. Like, it didn't feel good for anyone. And that no one liked playing against Lantern.
It
Come on.
felt good for you telling that story.
She's a friend of mine. It doesn't feel good. Like, that was her
You're
introduction to Magic.
smiling.
This is I think that the play experience of playing against Lantern and Breach are probably not terribly far off in terms of how much fun the opponent is having.
One of these decks got a Ristic Study video.
Breach hasn't yet.
It won't. And if I have to pay Sam to make that happen, I will.
That's a new level of Patreon tier, actually, if you think about it. By the way, patreon.com/BSB. How much would you pay to have content, to ban content from a content creator?
To ban content?
Yeah, like, like Jason's not allowed to rant about Chromanticore. What's the tier for that? Like, that's the idea of that,
That's too easy.
What if it's something you really like? What if someone says Cass isn't allowed to do props and slops or whatever the shout out segment is,
No, we just have to get people money to remove you from the cast permanently.
Ooh, you're going to pay me to leave? You're going to pay me
Yes.
to not work?
A buyout.
The American dream. I love this plan. As you and I sit here as the two.
Yeah, then it's a solo cast. Then it's just me screaming into the void. That's
You
fine.
can play 4 characters. In fact, if you wanted to take a nap in the middle of the cast, you could even be Ryan Bouchard and play 5 all at once.
And then like we have a bit where I run off screen and come into the view on yours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we're getting fancy, playing with the Patreon money for those YouTube / Brainstorm Brewery videos. I see.
Yeah.
I like where we're going.
Where I run into frame on yours, say something, and then run back into frame on mine, and it's all been an elaborate pre-recorded bit where I flew to your house and did recordings.
That's it, because that's our level of technology. Without more technology, with no JJ involved, we would probably end up with just fly to Oklahoma.
And then I put on my Jason cosplay, my Guy Fieri shirt and Crocs, and teach you how to have your kids fear you.
If you were here, the only thing you would be allowed to do, well, I'm sorry, not the only thing, obviously. The main thing that I would want you to do in my home is to buy my Magic cards.
Okay.
But
Right.
as you are not in my home right now, I am forced to continue accumulating them. And the other night, I was pulling out, I got really annoyed. This is the stupidest story. I got really annoyed because
This is a found a guy is cradle and bulk story, guys. Just wait. Just
no.
just
It's
wait.
like unfortunately, it's like the inverse. I wanted to fetch a Tundra in one of my decks specifically, so I didn't have to shock myself. I needed white blue, and I didn't have a Tundra. I had an Underground Sea and whatever the other color combination is there in the deck, Scrubland, and I did not have a Tundra when I needed specifically a Tundra, and it made me rage so hard that I went to like my Legacy binder and was like, I'm really considering just pulling one of my Tundras out of here. But that would make my binder not spark the same joy because it would not be even anymore, right? So I'm really in a pickle here, right? So I decided that probably the best thing to do would be to buy another Tundra, okay?
Correct.
Yes. And I also decided then I would have 8 Tundras instead of 7, and that makes more sense. So I'm on this path, but I'm like, maybe it's irresponsible when you own 7 Tundras to just buy an 8th Tundra to keep your binder. Like, maybe that's like not the level I need to be at as a human being. Okay. So
I'm going to channel Cass here and say, get your money up.
Well, it's literally, that wasn't the point. It just felt irresponsible. Okay. It just felt financially irresponsible.
That's
so
why you got to get your money up.
It wasn't an issue of money.
Press those feelings down.
Yeah.
That feeling of irresponsibility, of worrying about mortgage, just press it into the juicer and turn the blender on.
As your money goes up, your suppression gets it pushed further and further down. But so I decided, look.
That's the American dream. Listen, Henry Ford put his empathy into a blender and made a lot of money as a result.
Okay, so I decided I don't want to be. I'm going to find a middle ground here. Okay, I'm not Henry Ford. I'm going to trade my cards in instead. I'm going to trade some extra high-end cards that are not high-end so much anymore. And that got me to looking at the prices of expeditions and the prices of like my Scalding Tarns and Misty Rainforests that I just had like playsets of they've like halved in value over the past 2 years, if not more. And it's actually low-key devastating. That's all. I think that was the point of the story, is that these cards that we viewed as blue chip things even 5 years ago.
That was such an emotional whiplash.
I know.
No, not what you think I'm going to say. Of you trying to get people to empathize with you for your financial straits of needing to buy an 8th Tundra and feeling slightly bad, and the whiplash to you saying, oh, but my extremely expensive cards are now only worth $100 instead of $200. Like, what's the Patrick Sullivan tweet? Like, this card shouldn't be $600, it should be $400. Yeah, very smart businessman.
Yeah, I look, I understand the irony or the I understand what is inherent in what I'm saying here. But I guess the point is we're going to get around to talking about secret layers in a bit. And you mentioned the words before the cast, asset class. And it got me thinking of what asset classes in Magic are good, because expeditions, singular.
No, Corbin, you misheard me. I said ass at class. I was talking about porn. I was talking about teacher-student ass in class porn, and you just completely. That was not a financial education video. That was me trying to teach you about the birds and the bees.
You see, people looking on YouTube can see that my headphone has.
Corbin's trying to hypnotize you. Turn away. Look away.
Yeah, I got no ear guard on this thing, so I just didn't understand what you said there. But I wouldn't know about. I, in fact, don't want to know. One might say about those your corn habits, and my corn habits will never be public information on this cast. So it's a really great topic for the after hours, where
they will never be public information, but they will be available at that Patreon tier, where if we get Corbin to leave, he will post a 30-page Google Doc as part of his pink slip.
The Patreon tier,
all of his kinky secrets.
What if the Patreon tier of list your you that's the ultimate parasocial relationship of pay enough money, learn more of my secrets. I will divulge one sexual secret at the $40 tier. That's sadly probably an untapped business model, or is just called OnlyFans.
So what you So what you do is you write a program. You write the Google Doc, right? You write the 30-page Google Doc of all of your stuff, all of your things that make you wiggle, and then you
30 pages.
Spoiler page all of it.
That's ambitious.
So you spoiler page all of it. And when somebody subscribes at the $200 tier or whatever, that unlocks a letter. So everyone can buy a letter And it's like a Wheel of Fortune. It's like a Wheel of Fortune situation.
Yeah, dude, they
where
can work
enough
together.
people, if 26 people come together, or like 10 or 15 of savvy people who are good at the game, they like buy the vowels. The vowels cost more. And like they can unlock your kink document together. That's
Yeah, no, it's OnlyFans.
community
That's what
building.
we're describing OnlyFans, I think.
No, this is a unique business model.
Everybody buys part of it. Everyone buys part of a pixel. You can own part of a Black Lotus, and if enough people get together, there'll be a Black Lotus in front of you, and you'll own part of it.
Yeah, and all of your hands have to be on it when you cast it. Like everyone has to power of friendship it, like Yu-Gi-Oh.
One of the first directives, I guess, I got at Channel Fireball was that when I worked there, was that Channel Fireball was partnering with the company that did you can buy shares of a Magic card.
Yep.
And I had to
I remember the group chat on that day.
Yeah. I didn't feel great. I mean, I obviously had no part of it. They handed me a press release, and I was just my job to click publish. But
I was just following orders. Quote Henry Ford and Corbin Hostler.
Yeah, shockingly, that company I think no longer exists, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure the asset class of reserve list cards has in fact done pretty okay in that time. That was maybe 6-7 years ago, I'd say.
That was the before times, yes.
Yes,
the good old days.
The before time. All right, let's move on to Legacy, where the Troll of Khazad-dûm got banned. And speaking of embarrassing cards on the ban list, I think that's up there. It's a 6/5 for 6 mana with Swamp Cycling.
It's a 6/5 for 1 mana. Let's be real.
Well, if that's how you're going to do it, it's 2. But because you got to either cycle for 1 and or entomb for 1 and then reanimate for 1. But
you're never entombing this card. This is a crime of opportunity.
I understand. Then it's 1 for cycling. If you look at the cards on the ban list, I'm just saying, Troll of Khazad-dûm is likely to stand out as one of the more. Even if you just look at it, you just scratch your head and say, "What?" Even though it makes sense. Now, what's interesting is if you read the explanation on Wizards' website, and I think it was Carmen who wrote up the Legacy one, and the whole thing. I got to say, the design team did a good job explaining everything going on this time around. And her explanation was that if you look at the numbers, Legacy's sort of fine. The no deck is too dominant. Things are within a reasonable band, etc. But if you dig down a little bit, these particular cards or play patterns or decks are sort of still suppressing some of the more interesting parts of the gameplay of the format that people like, right? It's sort of that old design adage, I think, where if you you can design a card that says, flip a coin. If heads, I win. If tails, I lose. And while that card is perfectly balanced in theory, it wouldn't lead to very fun games. And I think that was kind of the situation they found Legacy in, where the blue-black Reanimator deck and or the Eldrazi decks, it's not that they were necessarily too overall powerful, but they were kind of removing some of the enjoyable parts of the format. So for the blue-black deck, you no longer had to run these cards that gave you clunky opening hands and created the sort of tension that you've always known when you play any combo deck, right?
They're glue that holds things together.
Yeah, and
they let you do the 2 different broken decks at the same time. Is what those. They are not like One Ring level power of just like, this is the card that I pay 4 mana and it does all the things. They just are very, very efficient role players.
Yeah. And sort of like a Thopter Foundry esque. What's the Thopter Foundry Dark Depths deck back in the day, where the decks that individually had weaknesses, Jerry T came up, found a couple bridge cards, and all of a sudden you just had a powerhouse deck. And that's kind of like a little bit what the Troll did for the graveyard decks, is it kind of took away their weaknesses by sort of bridging the gap.
I think if you look at most cards on the banned list through the eyes of a virgin Magic player, which is one of the things, I think that's page 36 in Corbin's kink link.
It's not that long, man. It's like
if you look at most cards on either banned list from the eyes of like a Magic player who has yet to experience competitive gameplay, which that's just like you're still a fresh little chicken that hasn't gotten bird flu yet. like most of the cards on the Magic ban list don't seem powerful unless you know the context of what they did and why they were put in prison. Like,
That's fair.
I remember being a casual player and being like, what's up with Golgari Grave Troll? Why is this $8? Like, I just want one for my dredge deck in Ravnica block. Why is this card so expensive? Like, I get that it's a 5-mana 10/10 or whatever, but you gotta put a lot of work into that. And like, turns out the cards never cast. You don't put that card into play.
Yeah, I remember when I first picked up a dredge deck, I literally didn't know what to do. So and when I was a new Magic player, it actually kind of broke my brain the first time I looked at a dredge deck. So I get that. Sowing Mycospawn was the other card banned, and this really I think gets at the fun aspect of things. It's a 4-mana 3/3. It can't be that good, right? Got kicker of 2. But it turns out in the context of the big mana Eldrazi decks, it's pretty good. Kicker of 2 allows you to go get any land, put it into play untapped. And if you kick the spell, if you kick the spell, you get to exile a land. And just when it comes into play, period, or when you cast it, you go get a land. So what would happen is it would exile one of your opponent's lands, and then they would you'd go get a wasteland, and you'd exile another, you'd get rid of another one of their lands. So it turned out that Sowing Mycospawn was just the 3/3 body left behind. Didn't exactly matter, but it would close the game when your opponent has no permanents in play because you stone rained them twice on turn 3 or 2 or whatever you're.
This card is banned for the same reason that Primeval Titan is banned in Commander.
Go on.
The sheer variety of lands you can get that are very good that either provide utility or just kill you.
Yeah.
So like this card, I mean, you're like, oh yeah, this is 3/3 that eventually ends the game, but like they can kill this, but it grabbed an Iavug and it will get a giant thing that kills you.
Yeah.
Or it doubles wastelands you, or it does the like Primeval Titan throughout its history has always just been this like, I'm here and also I just brought backup and that backup is really hard to interact with and you need to kill me immediately or out. And like again, it's just attacking on so many different axes that make the card is just a guaranteed 3-for-1 or 4-for-1 or whatever.
I was curious of the count and I haven't gone into it, but Modern Horizons 3 is getting up there in banned cards. Added another one with Basking Broodscale if you count Pauper.
I think Wizards has decided, and like we've talked about this on previous Modern Horizons set, this is not new, but Wizards has decided that it's okay for them to just rotate a format and it doesn't, like, they're okay with a set being 285 cards minus 5 every time.
I mean, yeah.
And like most sets aren't minus 5. Most sets are fine. Yeah. Most sets come out and you do the thing and all the cards are fine or good or whatever, and that's okay. But like, I think that Wizards is come to terms with, and not even just Wizards really, like the player base as a whole has adapted to, yeah, we're going to have some really bad formats when certain sets come out and we're going to play the deck. And then the deck's going to get banned, and we're going to move on to the next deck. And Wizards has a long enough history of owning and making the game that they can watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Do this and be okay with it, and people still buy all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. Because that, for those who don't know, that game is much more focused around the new archetype comes out, it's very good, people buy it and play it, and then it gets banned, and then the next set comes out, and... It just sort of continues with the flavor of the weak broken thing that you can do, and the ban list gets mostly ever longer, and then there's this cute little trend where sometimes cards from 2004 that cost 8 cents come out and fuck your shit up because they have a hyper niche ability that just interacts with some crazy combo from 2025. But like we get that in Magic too, and that's why we suddenly sell a lot of Miram Sentinel Worms or whatever, or Unfulfilled Desires, and that's why you listen to this podcast, so you know which of the 45-cent cards that you should buy a brick of, and then feel like you won at capitalism. That's great.
Well, and at the same time too, players want to play with new cards, and I don't mean to sound like reductionist or whatever, but literally today with this ban list announcement, you have a large contingent of players, of content creators going, well, this mouse deck has been pretty good in standard for checks notes 9 months or something now. We better do something about it because that's too long. Oh, this mouse deck had a good weekend in Pioneer because everyone was playing cards that say you lose 2 life on them with the Rakdos deck. Crazy. I guess it's just that the mouse deck is too strong. We need to ban something. So that's like a large part of discourse from the player base. And then part of that is just crazy. When you dig into it, you got someone going, no, it needs to be Monstrous Rage. It's just too good of a trick. You got someone going, no, it has to be Manifold Mouse. Double Strike and Trample is just too much of a combination. And someone else going, no, it has to be Heartfire Hero because it just comes down on the very first turn and there's nothing you can. And it's like, if maybe none of you can actually agree on what the ban is, like maybe that's not the, maybe there's nothing too egregious there. Right? Like maybe things are okay and there's going to be a best deck. But the point is people are always lobbying for whatever. They want something new. They don't want to see the mouse deck in standard for 2 more years or another 12 months or whatever, because we've seen that for 9 months now. We're ready for the next thing, but it's so strong that we have to live with it for 2 more years. And it's like people always go through this every iteration of a format. So Wizards, to your point though, like Wizards talking about banning cards, like players want the churn. They maybe don't want people don't want their necessarily to get there via their cards getting banned, but people do want the churn.
Yes, they want fresh new experiences. I also just want to offer a moment of silence to everyone who put in the hours in their mental grinding station to learn how the mental grinding station deck worked, and like brought that fully equipped, ready to battle to events, knowing that it was walking to the gallows. Like, you still spent hours of your life learning that skill and like getting a degree in typewriterology in like the late 1800s, and like, good for you. Like, that's something that no one can take away from you. You did that for you.
I have to say,
good for you.
The late 1800s, getting a degree in typewriterology in the late 1800s would be an incredibly forward-thinking move.
I don't know when the typewriter came out.
Neither do I. But I do think they were used. I think in 1920 you were still good with your typewriterology if they had it. But I don't know. Now 1990, the late 1900s, maybe that would be.
Oh yeah, sure. The first introduced in 1874. What did I say? 1880s?
Like, you just said the 1800s. So like I think you meant to say the 1900s, right? Like,
no, I meant to say the 1800s.
Oh, I was like, in 1999, getting a degree in typewriterology right before computers would in fact not be great. However, in 1890, it was probably fucking awesome, right? You were like elite coders at that point if you were a typewriterologist. And you were in such demand in World War One. Typewriterology.
Yeah.
Bringing it back.
Quickly became an indispensable tool for practically all writing other than personal handwritten correspondence.
Well, I will say, as far as the breach deck goes, I don't know if learning, like, you think about some of the crazy combo decks that have gotten banned, like Krog Clan Ironworks, with the combo that Matt Nass came up with that like didn't use the stack, so you couldn't interact with it. I don't know if you remember the rules loophole with the
KCI nonsense thing.
Yeah, there was like a rules loophole where like you did something as sacrificing something as part of the cost, but then also it was able to come back, like
because there were mana abilities involved.
Yeah, like it was something that, because of the rules of the game, fundamentally broke it, which was pretty funny. So I don't know if that would have been worse than learning these breach lines that you have to learn, or if learning your Nadu lines might have been more annoying. Think about the manual dexterity it took to play Nadu. You have to learn how to manage all those dice and stuff, the ones and the twos. It's a lot of work. So
yeah, I have a friend who was very, very good at manually clicking his Deceiver Exarchs on Moto.
Yeah, and like, your Storm
just
player is
hyper efficient. Like he could have 2 seconds on the clock and starting his turn. He's like, no, I got this.
Well, and your old, everyone knows the Storm player archetype, who for 5 to 10 years showed up to every modern tournament with Gift Storm, and they put just as much pride into how they counted their Storm count and their mana as they did their deck.
Yeah,
like
it's astrology. It's a personality trait.
Yeah, what Pokemon cards they used, and the whole life. So it's a lot of work. Hopefully, you just did well with the deck if you put a lot of work into it for your tournament, and then it had to go.
Fear not the man who has mastered 1,000 typewriter strokes, 1,000 different typewriter strokes. Fear the man who has mastered one typewriter stroke 1,000 times.
There you go. Supposed to be the whole point of Modern is that you can succeed via that way, and the Horizon sets made that not really the case. And instead, you were just supposed to play the hot new cards. All right. Speaking of hot cards, the kinds you should pick up, the kind you should pick out of your bulk. In fact, that's what it's time for now.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
Is Breaking Bulk brought to you as always by MTGstocks, where we go for the best Magic financial information on the internet, as well as where we go for all our picks of the week and our Breakings Bulk, which we're coming to you now. Now, I have to say, DJ, it's just you and me. And if you're not able
One-on-one,
to
mano a mano.
yeah, you're
The
just gonna
last time
crush
this
me.
happened, the last time Corbin and I faced off like this was in like 2017, I think. And he challenged me to a 1v1 mid lane, Fizz versus Syndra. It did not end well for him. So this is the rematch. Let's go.
I forgot about that.
That video never came out because of
Did we
reasons.
record a
But
video? All right, Breaking Bulk time. I've got a classic set for you here, DJ. At least classic to me. Return to Ravnica. I don't know what the actual definition of classic when it comes
Return to
to
Ravnica, that just came out 6 months ago. There's Jason
Jason's
has a
back.
life, baby.
Yeah, he's here. It's a multicolored uncommon from Return to Ravnica.
Is it a charm?
Maybe.
Is it charm?
Nope.
Golgari charm.
Why would you guess Golgari charm?
Because I am good at my job? Like
Yeah,
I see the things that come out of my sorting machine. Like
Izzet charm is not a pick. For the record, it's 20 cents. However, I thought you would get tricked up and say Rakdos charm, which has been like popping up in competitive play a little bit again recently, and is worth $1.
that's
But yeah,
my secret, Corbin. I don't follow competitive play.
Yep. Well, I didn't know if you would get Golgari charm, which is also $1. Which is surprising because Golgari charm was played back in the day, but I haven't seen it
Azorius
in
charm
a
hasn't seen
long
play
time.
since 2013.
True.
And what is the fifth one?
Celestia charm.
Yeah, Selesnya charm.
Yeah, also didn't see play. Saw play back then in Green White Craig Westco deck.
Fun
But yeah,
fact, for nobody who cares, but that's fine. Orzhov Ghost Council from Gatecrash, the 5-man or
Yeah, the one that blinks
5
in and out.
mana 5/5 comes in, drains you. That card used to be a 4/5 or a 4/4. I don't know if you know this story, Corbin.
Go on.
Orzhov Ghost Council from Gatecrash used to be a 4/4 or a 4/5 in playtesting, and they buffed it to 5 power so that they could nerf it, so that Selesnya Charm could kill it.
Oh, Gaunt's go Obsidat. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, Obsidat Ghost Council was originally a 4/4, or originally had 4 power.
Yeah.
And during playtesting, they buffed it to 5 power in order to nerf it in the standard metagame, so that Selesnya Charm could exile that on the opponent's turn.
Interesting. Well, it's a good call because both Celestia Charm and Obsidat saw quite a bit of play.
Yep.
I loved Obsidat. There was a while in Modern where this was like a card you tried to reanimate.
It was a spicy Goryo's one-of because it kept coming back.
All of these Goryo's decks you're seeing now, like they kind of got started when I first saw them however many years ago. Ghost Council was a piece of them. It was a sweet card.
How much is Golgari Charm worth?
It's worth $1. 75 cents to $1. More than I expected.
Yeah.
All right, what are you looking at?
I have an Urza's Saga, or sorry, Jason's not here. Urza's Gears, uncommon, colorless uncommon, with a couple of reprints that are more modern frame.
Yeah, hit me with the reprints. Let's assume I don't know my uncommons from Urza's Gears.
Commander 2015, which is the enemy colored ones for the Corbins of the cast here tonight. And then the list is the other printing, so that one's not helpful.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
the Commander 2015, it is from either Gisela
Or one of those
or
artifacts. One of those artifacts that like becomes a creature.
it is not an artifact that becomes a creature. Not a bad guess though.
Yeah.
If you can tell me what the card does, I'll give it to you. But it's an uncommon non-creature from Urza's Saga and Commander 2015. You might play this in Commander.
What was Commander 2015?
I told you that already. It's the Gisela enemy colors, Orzhov, Simic experience counters,
Oh shit. Okay.
Izuri, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I know. I'm not gonna know. What is it?
Crystal Chimes.
I,
This is a 3-mana artifact with a 3-mana activation tap sacrifice cost. It returns all enchantments from your graveyard to your hand.
huh.
It's around $1. It was presumably in the Orzhov deck because that was the enchantment one. And the list printing was found in Mystery Booster, and Mystery Booster.
Huh. I actually know Commander 2015 decently. Like looking that I know that set symbol, I know those cards. I do not know this one. I wonder how many of these I might have passed over the years.
My Roka rejects these all the time because the artwork is so monochromatic.
Yes.
If you look at the artwork, JJ will put it on the screen, but like it's just very, very orange and yellow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar colored palettes next to each other, and the Roka does not like that. It doesn't like the monochromatic background, so it gets rejected. But I know my breaking bulk, so I still put it in the dollar bins.
Oh, it's a good one. I did not know that one. And all of you can know that one if you go check out MTG Stocks, where we find all of these picks and we talk about them in our Discord, which you can access via patreon.com/BSB. And our patrons, we say this every week, it is the only reason we were able to make this show and have an editor who is able to put this show together so that we can bring you content every week. We really appreciate all of you who make it possible. So please go check out patreon.com/BSB. So before we get to pick of the week, we want to talk a little bit about secret lairs, because secret lairs have been now years of this, and the ones over the past week have, like many of them, caused a bit of a stir. So we figured we might revisit sort of just the concept of the secret lairs. Especially, I think a lot of people conflate secret lairs and universes beyond, and that is a mistake, because while I understand that it was easy to sort of, that was all the not normal Magic releases before, and something like SpongeBob, for instance, is a secret lair. That's not a Universes Beyond set that's going to be in Standard, which is what a lot of people I have spoken to, casual Magic players over the past 6 months or so, that they've gotten the idea of, I'm going to be playing. People are playing SpongeBob in Standard, and that's not how it's working. On that note, the SpongeBob secret lair came out, and it broke the system again. The back end had some problems, and there's been a lot of talk about how, since they've switched over to the print to fill instead of print to demand, so they're not printing all of these as much as people want. They're going to print to supply as much as they have, and that has led to shortfalls and, of course, people rushing. And now there's the bonus cards in the secret lairs are sometimes different, and that has led to what some people have decried as more FOMO tactics, even within the ultra premium secret lair products anyway. So with all of that said, they're still very popular. Clearly, a lot of people are into SpongeBob. Later this year, we're going to have the Universes Beyond hit Standard, but those, again, are not what the secret lairs are, which are the limited releases that go on the website. And let's talk about them. With that said, there's been at this point hundreds of secret lairs. And we talk about them on this show as financial investments. And this is where we get back to what we were talking about earlier. DJ used the term asset class to describe it before the show. But DJ, kind of, here we are about to be April 2025. Where is your general stance on secret lairs and how the consumer should interact with them moving forward?
So I think I would like to broadly separate secret lair purchasers into two kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
The first kind of person is the one who is emotionally invested in the product for artwork reasons or IP reasons or card selection reasons, and you just want the card to play with, to put in your wall, to put in your binder, whatever, or because you just care about that card. I think that person should either operate within the paradigm that Wizards has provided, which is be ready, set your Google Calendar, set your phone alarm for 3 minutes beforehand, refresh the page, go through the meat grinder. I personally haven't really ever had any issues checking out with Secret Lair products ever since the scale fast system was done as the way it is currently. I know some people have. I personally haven't had any issues as long as I was just right on time and hitting that button. Sometimes the website crashes, etc. I understand that is frustrating. It sucks. Or you can just set a different Google Calendar notification for like 6 months to a year from now, which feels a lot less dopamine tingling, and just buy the card then or trade for it when you just interact with it when the supply is plentiful, or when when the Secret Lair hits the secondary market, and you will see an initial glut of supply as some people get their products and then list them all. But you can set your alarm for either right after the set release when people are dumping them all, or just like a year from now. And I realize that for the person who is emotionally invested in the product, that is not the ideal outcome. I understand everybody is clamoring for print to demand. I've talked about the downsides to that extensively. There is not a one size fits all solution to the printing method for these based on how Wizards wants to do them. Print to demand is not a perfect solution, just like how the current distribution model is not ideal. Right. The other person, so one person is just like, you're a Magic player, you want to buy the thing, you should either do so A, the way Wizards tells you to, B, the week after the set releases when it crashes, and you can just buy singles for pretty reasonable prices. You just like, oh, I wanted the Sandy, that's all I wanted. Buy her for $6 on TCG Player or from your local game store or local vendor, move on with your life. Or you just wait forever until it comes into you naturally and sparks joy. The other person is the person who is treating these as a asset class, as a financial investment. The person who has a lot of Secret Lairs in their closet and is just sort of trying to time the market and buy the right one, or is SpongeBob the good one? I'm keeping track of all these Secret Lair releases. This one has XYZ card in it, and those cards are worth money. Or should I get the cat one because cats are better than dogs? Just running the graph like the Pepe Sylvia graph. And to that person, I would suggest stop thinking about which Secret Lairs are going to be good and bad, and just buy all of them. That's another get your money up thing. That is you should just buy the bundle. And I mean, for this Secret Lair announcement, they had effectively a vendor bundle that was, this is 2,000 USD. It comes with 4 of everything. There you go. And it had a pretty hefty discount attached to that. I believe it was one of the first things to sell out, because the kinds of people who want that product are the ones hitting the refresh at 11 a.m. or noon or whatever. And that is what you should do. One of the vendor discords I'm in quoted something very eloquently, which is, time in the market is better than timing the market.
Exactly.
Which is, if you just treat them all as a single thing, and you just buy all of the Secret Lair inventory as it releases, and you just list it all and sell it all, and you just play the game, take the goods with the bads, you buy all the good ones, you buy all the bad ones, it will all even out plus positive EV. I think you will still do fine. And I would much rather just hit the buy button on more inventory and then sell the inventory and reprice the inventory when it needs repricing, and just treat them like I am buying more Cokes for my vending machine or whatever, and just do the thing instead of trying to time or guess or predict which ones are the good ones. I recently cracked a lot of my older Secret Lair products. I just had a lot of old Secret Lairs from collection buys and from store acquisitions, and I ran the numbers, and I cracked around 44% of them. So almost half were at the point that it was crackable. And my definition of crackable was TCG low for the EV of the sealed product is 90% or higher than the sealed product. So like if the secret lair was on
mhm.
TCG for 80 and EV was like 72 or higher, it gets cracked, and it just
Because you're more likely to sell $72 worth of singles.
and also because like at a certain point, as a vendor, you could just charge more for things than TCG low because people are willing to buy directly from you, and it's just, hey DJ, I want these cards. I trust that you will get them to me, and
Mhm.
they value my time as a vendor pulling cards for them more than they do trying to buy 7 different things on TCG Player from 7 different sellers.
Yeah.
And like I generally sell at market price when people buy my cards. And you say, hey DJ, I'm looking for these cards. I'm generally at market price, and so like market price is higher than TCG low, right?
Exactly.
And
That's
so
what I was going to say. Is that there's some built in for you there anyway. So
I would much rather just buy all the Marvel layers, all the SpongeBob's. I generally crack half of them and leave half of them sealed just to have a wider depth of
Mhm.
inventory for locals who are like, I just want the sealed one. I missed it. I didn't know it was coming. And then you get some amount of margin on the sealed, some on the singles, and then you just keep a nice database of what your sealed product inventory looks like, and you do a big secret layer crack once a year.
that's a great way to go about it. I think for the people who are again in that second class of people who are listening to the show because they want that financial advice and that of how to manage it. I think that's a good way to go about it because like it's easy to say buy all secret layers. It's a lot harder to talk about when to sell your secret layers, and that's a great way to go about
I
it.
think it's also just, I don't think it's easy to talk about buy all secret layers because the average person
Mhm.
who is trying to make money in this space and make the game pay for themselves is not in the same position I'm in, and I get that.
That's
Because
fair.
not to get bootstrappy here, but I was in the grindstone 10, 15 years ago buying and selling cards to afford the game and did not have nearly as much liquid capital as I do now. And this is pre-sorting machine era. It's a much different Wild West time, and it's gotten harder. If you are just that average Magic player with a couple $1,000s to speculate on and play with, it's way harder to use your tools to make a good margin compared to what we used to have.
Mhm.
Like I know TCG player scanning apps exist, all this, but like it's still a lot harder from a inventory management standpoint, from a SKU standpoint, from like just the number of sheer informations, sure, fuck it, information's a noun now. The number of informations that come at you, like it's harder. It's so much harder. And people ask me, DJ, how do I get to doing what you did as a Magic vendor? And I say, I don't know because it's not 2012.
That's a good answer, to be
like,
honest with you.
The
Because a
real
lot of
business,
yeah.
the real business answer is like the same answer that most other businesses give you if you are trying to get into like an industry on a larger scale. It's like, how do I start buying and selling whatever cars or such and such? It's like, have a 100,000 liquid capital to start your business, or like get a really good business loan or something like that. It's like you need so much more money to start out with. I think just putting your foot in the door of this industry nowadays. And it's like, yes, Roka has leasing options. Yes, there are other automation tools, but it's still tougher compared to like what's the
More
American
people.
folktale, like the guy who did this, the sledgehammer with the steam engine.
John
You
Henry.
should know this story out of all the people.
It's John Henry.
Thank you. Like, yeah, me and my John Henry day in 2012, like, we've come a long way and we have technology now, but like, it's still harder to tell the average person who is aspiring financier to just drop 2K every few months on secret layers. Yes, it is tougher. I think that's still the correct play. And if you don't have that level of just spending for your sorting machine and buying all the secret layers and just throwing money at the problem, if you're not there yet, I think the correct answer is just like, don't do this as a sole source of income.
Well, for sure, right? I mean, I think there's still lots of people in that hobby space who grind it out, but it's just a lot more of, before it used to be like you really put in legwork to go track down collections.
You have to really love the game to not start attaching an hourly to your MTG Finance grind. Like, you have to really love the grindstone to emotionally detach yourself from, like, I am doing this to make money. And, like, you have to really want to see those get, like, you have to love the actual process of making less than minimum wage.
Well, it depends where you start. Like, I do think there's still plenty of people, even if I think locally, who are the ones who pop up on all the Facebook posts when someone's looking to sell, right? Who are, I assume, still on that grind. And I'm sure they still make money. But I am also sure that it is a lot harder to make money and you're making less money percentage wise than we were 15 years ago. So I really like your answer of like, if someone asks you how to get into it and you say, I don't know because it's not 2012. I mean, you think about the inverse of that, where everyone's grandpa or uncle has advice about how they worked their way through college in 1979. You know, it's
Right.
like that. That's actually less than helpful. So, like me telling you how to make it in the industry in 2010 is also not very helpful. You know,
Yeah.
um, so obviously there are different things you can take away, but I think it's a good point. Um, Great. Well, there you go. I mean, I think that also, you can't bootstrap. It's just you just don't probably get as many. And I don't mean to say this in like a negative way, or I hope no one takes this as me saying take advantage of people. But you have less stories of crazy, random, valuable things popping up out of nowhere in collections and stuff because like most people can scan an app at this point in their lives,
I
right? You're
don't.
more just grinding.
I am going to push back on you on that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Specifically because there are so many more different Magic cards.
I mean, that's true.
And I don't like, yes, there are, you can go through and scan a box of 1,000 bulk rares. In my experience, most people don't want to do that.
When I
Like,
see
they
the posts,
they just
yeah,
don't.
like when I see posts on like the Facebook groups for Oklahoma, you used to get people just saying stuff like, "I've got a bunch of cards I want to sell. Anyone want to come look at them?" Blah blah blah, and then everything kind of just happens like in person, and you get to do your numbers. Now I see a lot more of here's a picture of all of my cards, and then you see several people pop up as like, "I pay 70% of TCG low," and there's just a lot more of this sort of like people making lists, people giving them amount of money for those lists than there was ballparking your way through things back in the day on the true like the grind looks different now, I think.
It looks different, but I think you still get so many hits in bulk nowadays because
Hmm.
like the average card being like a couple dollars in bulk gets left in bulk more often because it's like it's
True.
just another one of those $1 or $2 cards. I don't
That is
care.
true. That is
Whereas
very
back in the
true.
day, that $1 to $2 card goes in your trade binder.
No, that's a very good point that you do see a lot of like what I really forced myself to get off of the buying cards grind like that. But a lot of it these days is like, yeah, anything under $2 is bulk. Even sometimes like
Yes.
250, $3, like it's just bulk. Like, you know. Um and that yes, I do think that there's probably a lot. But that's what we're talking about, right? It's a lot more opportunities to grind 25 cents into 75 cents.
And that is where the advice
The
of
love
like
of the game.
just get a sorting machine and send it all the card kingdom comes in. Like that's
Yeah, I
because
do get into that.
otherwise you are manually typing in $1 cards to Card Kingdom buy list and then manually sorting them, and that's no
Well,
good. That's
yeah. I mean, the sorting machines are still in the point where they are not mass available to people. And it's interesting is all the different printings. It's actually, I don't know that we're necessarily getting closer. I mean, obviously, economies of scale we are, but like at the same time, it's a moving target for getting the technology down to the extreme hobby level. Like your Roka had issues or something, DJ, and it took you what, like a week to get it fixed or something.
I think mine is the exception, and not
Um,
the norm.
Sure. It's
I
not an out of the box experience for people at this point.
Yeah.
It's not the TCG player app, but more automated, right? It's not that it requires. It's not an out of the box solution yet, which would be the true game changer, I think, for people grinding through their $2 to $3 bulk, as opposed to just people who do it for the love of the
I
grind.
believe the most affordable sorting machine on the market is called Magic Sorter, which
Hmm.
not the greatest name, but it is
SEO.
around $4,000 or $5,000. It is run by one guy in Europe, I believe Italy, who does not speak very good English, and most of the troubleshooting solutions are, I hope you know how to 3D print something.
Oh God. Yeah, that's what I
So,
mean. Like, and that's $4 or $5,000, and that is out of the range of a lot of people in this hobby
yes.
who are in it for $500 or $1,000 at a time, not spending $5,000 to then spend another $5,000 to sort. You know. Yeah. All right. Well, good talk. I think that's sort of an interesting discussion, just to sort of where things are at. But
I think
you know,
sorting or not sorting.
Secret
I think
Lairs
secret
are-
layers as a whole are a very good thing for the game.
oh, for sure.
You can complain about FOMO. You can say that they are ruining Magic's core or whatever. Skins are good, man. Like skins are just good for games. They provide value.
They've been accepted across the industry as the way that the community accepts monetization, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
The era of like pay $70 for your game and then you get a physical cartridge and you walk uphill both ways to put it in your PS3, like that is not a thing, and it's not gonna keep your gaming industry alive. So like,
well, and those
skins are good.
Things on the topic of games, right? Like we work in the games industry. I have more, I have a wider experience in terms of these companies. But if you talk about game companies, software companies, like those cycles weren't good for employees necessarily either, because if your game flopped, that was that. It was a big chunk of money or not. Whereas the skin model, the Riot model or whatever, right? It's consistent monetization that leads to less churn throughout the company, which is, obviously there's goods and bads that we talk about the corporatization of gaming, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. So, all right, I think that wraps up most of our topics this week. But before we get out of here, we of course want to leave you with some picks of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
I'll start things off with a standard pick. You might be shocked or not. It's a Murders of Markov. Markov. I did it. We brought it back. Murders at Karlov Manor card. War Leader's Call. 3-mana Boros enchantment. Creature you control get +1/+1. Whenever creature you control enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Specifically, I'm looking at this because of the mobilize mechanic in Tarkir Dragonstorm. Like there's a 2-drop Voice of Victory. It's a 1/3 for 2 mana. It has mobilize 2, which means when it attacks, create 2 tapped and attacking 1/1 tokens. And your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So you play. There's another card that on turn 1 I think has mobilize, and you can play this on turn 2, and then you attack them both on turn 3 after you play the War Leader's Call, and you're swinging for just like some insane amounts of damage. So I think that whether or not the deck ends up panning out in standard, War Leader's Call, which is already a surprising $7, is probably headed to 10 or more.
I believe Cass picked this not recently. I'm not invalidating your pick,
Mhm,
but I believe it has been on her radar too. And as Cass, I agree and say it's a good pick.
Yeah, yep. There you go. Not on our pick of the week sheet
I
for
believe it was
recently,
last year.
or there either, to be honest with you, DJ.
Okay,
But here
I could be lying.
go. You
I'm
can
a tricky
find
little
that.
gremlin.
You can find that sheet, of course, by going to patreon.com/BSB, because all of our patrons at the right tier have access to that, where you can see the picks before they hit the internet with the public release of the episode, because our patrons get the episode early. What are you looking at for pick of the week, TJ?
Mine is black and from the 1900s. You want to guess it?
Massacre.
No, Massacre is from the 2000s, I think.
No one knows any cards from the 1900s.
It's not a card. My pick is the Model T by Henry Ford.
Get the hell out of here. I saw someone recently. No, DJ, you can't get any service on those. I saw a YouTube video where someone tried to take a Model T to the dealership and they wouldn't repair their car. I'm not getting a car that won't have service. Come on.
Like cell service? It didn't have cell service?
No, man, they wouldn't service
Didn't
the
even have
vehicle.
Bluetooth?
They would not service the vehicle, man. I'm sure the Bluetooth wasn't working in it either.
My pick of the week is an actual black card from almost the 1900s. It is Cover of Darkness. I am not picking the Onslaught version, but I am picking the Assassin's Creed version, which is down to like $5.
What's Cover of Darkness do?
It used to be $40. That's what it does. And it enters the battlefield. You choose a creature type, and then creatures of that type have fear.
I had no idea.
Yeah, this was very famously just a $40 card for a while because it was just an Onslaught, and it's hard for them to put a card in a set that has just fear because it's a weird old mechanic. It flavorfully fit within Assassin's Creed, Cover of Darkness, Requiesce in Pace or whatever. And the card, I think, will go back to 10 or 15 if it continues to go another 20 years without a reprint. Cover of Darkness, creature type decks, gonna be some black dragon decks out there. There's just always creature types, and if this continues to avoid reprints, I think Cover of Darkness goes to 10 or 15.
Especially once you have some kind of typal commander that, triggers off of your creatures having evasion or whatever,
Yeah, Assassins have done this recently, like in that set where a lot of them trigger on combat damage, and that's why the card is in the set.
Something like that will spike it again in the future for sure. Also, by the way, on the topic of the secret layers and the universes beyond earlier, it does give it an opportunity to reprint cards like this, an avenue that did not necessarily exist before. And obviously, the additional reprint avenues is something they've been working on at this point for a decade or so, or probably.
It is a weird double-edged sword because on one hand, it gives them a lot of opportunities to reprint cards that haven't been printed in forever, and then in that same set, they will print cards that don't have a good opportunity to be reprinted because they're weird names or whatever. Like, hey, we gave you this reprint of this card. Also, we made Silver Shroud costume. When's the next product for that? I don't know.
Well, they're very good at this. It's like you spend $40 on the old one, and then when it gets cheap, they give you a new one to spend $40 on.
Corbin, I think we figured out their business model.
Damn.
Huh. Is that a red dot on your forehead? That's weird. When'd you get that?
And on that note, I'll see everyone in Denver at the Magic event.
No, you won't. You won't see everyone in Denver. There will be like a few hundred people at that event.
I hope it's big. I hope it's big. It's limited. I think it's sealed. It doesn't sound like it's going to be big, but I hope it's big.
If you are flying to Denver to play limited, you are in the same category of person that I talked about earlier that I was going to make a reference to, but now I can't remember. The people who play Grinding Breach. If you're one of the people that grinded their brain to learn Grinding Breach and you spent 60 hours in the tank instead of learning how to crochet or something, you're definitely going to fly to Denver for the Cons of Tarkir sealed event, and you're not going to learn to crochet on the plane. You're going to watch some B-tier movie that Jason would love.
I'm gonna hook up the Wi-Fi and watch some limited resources to prep for my event, obviously. But I mean, look, if there are exactly two formats where I would ascribe true sickos to things like that, and that is Legacy and Limited. For people who are going to just get on a plane and fly to Rando City for, event that is not necessarily like basically get on a plane for a GP. Like GPs historically were a thing that people would do when they were local, more drivable. I don't know how many people
Denver is not a drive to it city.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. I hope it does well. I'm glad they're giving Limited some spotlight, so it'll be fun. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for Brainstorm Brewery this week, DJ. I'm glad we were able to knock out a two-person cast. We'll see Jason and/or Cass back next week, but we thank all of you for hanging out with us, and we're glad we were able to bring you an episode. Remember to check us out at patreon.com/BSB. We really appreciate your support. Check out our sponsor, MTGstocks.com. We'll see you next week, everybody.